The Four Absolutes of the Oxford Group. Absolute Love. Part 3. My name is Steven Eiderstein, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. I am looking forward to today's reading again. We didn't get through too much. Well, I didn't get through too much when going through the rest of the chapter. So we're going to be doing just one more paragraph. This absolute warrants quite a bit. And what I'm realizing just going through this with as much awareness as possible and as meticulously as I can, I'm realizing how this principle of absolute love really does tie into everything else. Not just absolute unselfishness, absolute honesty, and absolute purity, but all behaviors, right? All ways of personal conduct, how we want to actually behave and what we want to actually do. So I am getting a absolute ton out of this chapter. So I'm enjoying the fact that it's taking us a little bit longer to get through than the previous chapters have. To be honest with you, I'm getting a lot out of it. So I'm looking forward to it. This one should only be about 45 minutes or maybe a little less even. But I didn't want to add too much to it. And I missed some of the depth that this next paragraph really has in store for us. So let's go ahead and we'll get to the reading. Like I said, the reading is just going to be one paragraph. And we will go from there. So here we go. This is the third part reading from the book, What is the Oxford Group? Chapter Absolute Love, which is the fourth principle that we're talking about from the Four Absolutes of the Oxford Group. So let's go ahead. Here we go. And for those of you who have one of the original copies and might be following along, it's on page 111. So, many people who give put too much importance on thanks, which are not so necessary to the givers of good as they suppose. I'll never do anything for him again, a giver will say. Why, he never even thanked me. Was Christ thanked for the greatest good he did, his becoming a man for us? When he was thanked by those upon whom he worked miracles, he sent them on their ways, feeling that he was happy that his belief and trust in his Father could, through him, make them whole. Christ gave thanks to his Father, showing us that it is to God, the fountain of all good, our thanks should be given. Should we not have others thank God for us, then thank us alone? By that, they are paying us the greatest tribute possible to be paid to man. So there we go. That's the reading for today. And I really love it. I really think it's got a ton of great stuff in it. And I think it obviously ties in so much to what I was talking about last week, about accepting appreciation, accepting thanks, and the humility that we were talking about last week associated with this principle of absolute love. So I'm excited to kind of continue that conversation because I feel like it's a very important conversation for people to have. There's a lot of behaviors today that people are very dismissive and they just are false humility is practiced relatively often. And that really doesn't help anybody at the end of the day. It really doesn't improve anything. And it's really disingenuous. So I'm looking forward to expanding on that just a little bit more because it's a really relevant thing. And there's so much that this paragraph just covered. So we're going to be going through that. And I think it's only going to take about 3 sections, but there's so much to each one of these sections. So let's go ahead and we'll get started. It opens up with a great line, great perspective. And it says, many people who give put too much importance on thanks, which are not so necessary to the giver of good as they suppose. I'll never do anything for him again, a giver will say. Why he never thanked me. Now, I don't know about you, but I relate to that. I relate to it in a lot of ways. I relate to it because I have been the person that has said this, right? I've been the person that has had the expectations of thanks, that has had the expectations of appreciation, that I've been the person that has sought it, actually. And when I didn't get what I wanted, I just dismissed them. I cut them out of my life. I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. It was just, oh, you're not doing for me what I wanted, so therefore you are gone. But I've also been the victim of it, meaning I've also been the person that it has been done to. So I relate to it on both ends, right? Because I learned it from somewhere, and then I've practiced this unhealthy behavior, right? And I hid behind it. To be honest, this idea of like, I need to be thanked, I need to be validated, I need to be appreciated, right? And it really shows a big part of my character. So this obviously ties directly into what I was talking about last week with receiving thanks. And I want to point out that thanks is not something that should be sought. And that's what it's talking about here. It is not something that should be intentionally pursued, right? Thanks, gratitude, appreciation. That is not something that you should go about the world and your friend group and your community looking for and doing things to receive it, right? This is really asking us to look at our intentions, to look at our motivations as to why we are actually giving, why we are actually doing, taking the actions that we're taking, right? Because if we're taking actions and then we're expecting some type of return from them, from the individual or institution or whatever we're doing, and when we don't get that, being thanked, when we don't get that public recognition, sometimes people will get upset about, like, they should have been honored, they should have been mentioned, they should have been written about, they should have been acknowledged, right? If when you take an action, you're expecting that and you don't get it, that's a problem. I want you to. That's a you problem too. That was a me problem. When I would get upset when I wouldn't be thanked, that's a me issue. I'm taking it personally, right? So you have to take a real look at your motivation for doing something, because we're talking about absolute love here. We're talking about altruistically giving and being of service to God and other people. So keep that frame of reference in mind, right? That's the lens we're looking at this stuff through. So if we're looking at through this lens, then, and we're saying we're being that way, I'm taking actions out of absolute love, I am giving out of absolute love, but then I'm getting resentful or frustrated or angry when I am not thanked, then is it actually absolute love? That's a question you really got to ask yourself. That's a question I've really had to ask myself. Is it actually absolute love? Am I operating from a place of absolute love? If for some reason someone forgets to thank me or intentionally does not thank me, I get upset. If I'm getting upset, then I was looking for validation, for recognition, to be thanked. My motivation was not in the right place. And that's an important thing for me to do. There's a lot of unhealthy reasons to actually do something that objectively is good. A lot of people do it for selfish reasons. A lot of people do it for a sense of worth and value and this and that. They for all of the wrong reasons, to be honest with you, right? So it's not always. Emmett Fox talks about this. James Allen talks about this. Like, we start with action when we're changing. We start with this difference of way of acting, right? Like with the 12-step recovery, you put down the drink and you put down the drug and you're abstaining from use, but you've got to go deeper. You've got to actually look at the thinking behind it. And then behind that, you've got to look at your belief and your heart and your where are you functioning from, right? What are you holding within you that's driving your thinking, that's driving your behaviors, right? So we start from the outside and we work in, and then when we change the inside, it works its way out. Right? Like it's a beautiful thing, but we have to take a look at this stuff. Why? Because a lot of people take the right actions, but they don't do it for the right reasons. There's a lot of people that do the right thing so they can check off the box, so they feel better about themselves, so they can go do more wrong things. That's a common thing. Some people use it to build up their own self-worth. Some people use it to progress their reputation in the community, whether they're trying to establish something or be a certain type of way, or to get a certain office, or to selfishly move up the ladder in some way. So they're very direct, or they're very intentional, and they're very selfish about why they're doing it and self-centered about why they're doing something. It's not because it's objectively good. It's because they're receiving something from it. And that tarnishes those good actions. Though there can be good that still comes out of them. There's a lot of people that are helped during these things, but the giver then becomes resentful, right? That I'll never do anything for him again. I will never say why. A giver will say why he never thanked me. Look at me being all benevolent and everything, but you're not acknowledging that. How dare you? Is that really benevolence? Is that really absolute love that you're functioning from, if that's what the conclusion that you're coming to? Because in my experience, it's not. From my own experience and the way I've behaved and the things I've done, it is not. If I get upset because I don't get thanked, it shows I have to take a closer look at myself, because that is a me issue. Because if I am doing the right thing for the right reason, it does not matter if I'm getting acknowledgement for it or not. That is not my priority. That is not my desire. There's nothing about that I'm looking for. Absolute love brings that altruistic, genuine, authentic desire to be of service, because it is the right thing to do. I don't take it personally when people don't thank me for the things I do. Right? That's when I'm coming from a place of absolute love. I do not take it personally. It's just what it is. I've done the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And regardless of my individual egotistical recognition or not, it was still the right thing to do. And I'm still happy I did the right thing. I'm still content with the fact that I know the right thing was done. And I don't take it personally then. But that's something that was very difficult for me to learn. I thought the world was completely transactional for a long time. I didn't know that there was this different way to actually function and engage and interact in the world. I thought that everybody had to serve a purpose in my life. And if they didn't serve a purpose, I didn't need them around it. And turns out that's not a good way to actually function. Turns out that's not a healthy way to be. Turns out that is manipulative. Turns out that is, can even be abusive. It can lead you down some really bad roads. You can hurt a lot of people that way. So if I am operating from a place of absolute love and I am giving without expectation of return or thanks, then I don't take it personally. I don't get upset if that doesn't happen, right? That is truly absolute love, because you are giving because it's the right thing to do, not because of selfish, self-centered reasons. You have taken yourself out of middle. You're functioning from a place of absolute love, and you're putting yourself in a place to be of service to another individual because it's the right thing to do. regardless of how that individual responds to it or not. That was very difficult for me. But I do want to say it's possible. I didn't know it was possible, but it definitely is possible. There's a lot more people that function and operate that way than I realized. There's a lot more people that believed that's possible than I realized. You know, my worldview was so skewed because of the way I thought. I thought this was a pipe dream. This was an ideal that no one could meet. But if you aim at it and you actually take actions to embody this and emulate it, then guess what? You can actually become somebody that can function from a place of absolute love. Maybe not all the time, but at least partially. And I'll take partially over never. I didn't realize that. This giving with an expectation of return, a big problem for myself, I think I've referenced this on this podcast before, was codependency. I was very codependent, which is really just transactional. It's selfishness and self-centeredness in its purest form. Actually, being codependent is a painful way to be. It's because your entire self-worth, value, and love is operating outside of you, right? I needed other people to give it to me. So when I think about this, I would give and do and be of service to other people because it would serve me in some way, right? It's a very controlling behavior. It's a very selfish and self-serving behavior. I'm trying to control and influence another person's actions and behaviors and perspective so I get something out of it. I wanted people to like me because if they liked me, I felt valued and worthy. And if you didn't like me, I thought you were seeing the person that was worthless that I thought I already was. My baseline used to be that I am a worthless individual, that I hated myself, that I was not worth anyone's time. No one would stick around for me. And what that did was put me in a place where I felt like I had to control everybody. And I had to continue to put myself in service so I could get that validation, so I could get that thanks, so I could take those actions that proved I was a good person. Last week, we talked about that, how selfish and self-centered that is for someone to go around and do a positive inventory of their positive character qualities just so they can validate how good they are. That's not what we need to do, but that's what I used to do. Look at me. Look at this checklist of stuff I've done that makes me a good person. No, turns out that's only ever going to be temporary. You're still left with the belief that you hate yourself and that you're not worthy. And then you will always be seeking that external validation from other people. And you will be avoidant. You will be overly anxious. You will try to manipulate and draw that out from other people. And that will affect every single one of your relationships. Every single one. It's horrible. It's painful. It's excruciatingly painful, actually. I would function in a way where I was putting all of these unwritten rules and expectations on the people that were actually in my life, right? So I would want this person to like me, this person to approve of me because I needed them to validate my intelligence. I needed them to validate that I was a good person. I needed them to validate that I was worth their time, that I needed somebody to make me feel like I was loved and lovable. I needed somebody to make me feel like I was a quality human being, right? Because I didn't believe that about myself in any certain type of way, right? That's a funny thing about codependency, actually. Everything you're seeking from other people, you believe you need that because you don't believe it about yourself already. Just remember that. So everything, if you find yourself trying to get a certain type of validation, a certain type of feeling or emotion or value from external things, you inherently believe you do not have that quality. If you are acting in a domineering, angry, fear-invoking type of way to falsely instill a sense of respect from other people, right? Like you act this way so people fear you and respect you out of fear, which is never a healthy respect. It's not even actually respect. We call it that, but it's not actual respect. It's just fear of the consequences and actually putting people in a place to be concerned. It's because you don't have any respect for you. You don't believe you're a respectable person. I didn't believe I was a respectable person. So I'd have to function in a way that earned the respect of those around me. So then I felt like I could carry respect. But it turns out if I act in a way that I find respectful, I just carry myself with a sense of respect. And then those around me will sense that. It comes out as confidence. It comes out as a belief in oneself. It comes out as self-efficacy. It comes out as the willingness to be human and being okay with that. I didn't realize that, right? I didn't know that's how it was supposed to go. I thought I needed everyone else to tell me this thing, because without it, I felt like I wasn't. And this is very, very deeply entangled with this absolute love, because if you're coming from this place that I am not worthy, I need you to thank me for the good things that I do, or I will push you off, then you're not coming from a place of love. You're coming from a place of self-centered fear, selfishness, self-centeredness, right? And the best part is there's multiple layers to this. So if I functioned in a way that I would be of service to somebody, and then they would provide me the validation that I wanted. If I didn't get that validation repeatedly, I would cut that person out of my life. They would be gone. Like what was the quote? It was I'll never do anything for him again. He never even thanked me, right? So he didn't make me feel the way I wanted to feel. So screw that person. I don't need him in my life anymore. So I then use this unwritten set of rules that I put on this friendship or this relationship, whatever it might be. It could be coworkers, it could be romantic, it could be just friendships or family. When those aren't met by the person who doesn't know they're supposed to meet them, then I use that as justification to be angry and resentful and make myself feel better. And then I'm judgmental and I'm condemning and I'm degrading this person's character. Why? Because they just didn't act the way I wanted them to act, so I felt better about myself. It was the most toxic way of living I can imagine. It was that codependency is covert selfishness and self-centeredness to the extreme, and then we put ourselves in situations where we almost put people in a position where they have to behave in a way that we're scared they're going to behave in. Because we're so needy, or we're so avoidant, or we're so back and forth between the two, it drives someone else insane. So then they leave, and then we're like, everyone just leaves me. Oh, self-pity. I love self-pity. Self-pity was my favorite character defect, actually, because it made me feel like I was justified in all my terrible behavior. It was absolutely horrible. And I was extremely, extremely manipulative. It was the act of withdrawing love from somebody, the act of withdrawing help and service and kindness from somebody. It's a manipulative, narcissistic, really. I don't know if that's would be right to say there now that I'm thinking about it, but it's a very manipulative tactic, because you're withdrawing the love as punishment. You're withdrawing your love, kindness, compassion, and caring for another human being as punishment to them, to try to modify their behavior, which is horrifically codependent and controlling. Right? I withdraw my love to try to inflict uncomfortableness or even pain on a person, so they change to be the way I want them to be, so I get the validation and the positive, good feeling that I'm looking for from this individual. It happens in so many relationships when unhealthy boundaries are constantly practiced, or no boundaries are practiced, right? People don't understand this idea of the individual. We've all think we're 50% of a person, which is not how it goes. We're supposed to be two whole people that get together, not 50% here, 50% here. And hopefully we'll just deal with each other's toxicity long enough that it'll work and we'll just end up finding a way to work through it. That's not how this actually goes. That's not how healthy relationships actually last. Healthy relationships and relationship dynamics actually have people that have a sense of self-identity, that know who they are and what they're bringing to the table, and they don't rely on the other person to provide their sense of identity. And that's been lost along the way. And I just want to put this out there too, like if you ever just withdraw love to modify their actions, that's manipulative. Whenever you withdraw attention or anything like that to get someone to change, that's manipulation. There needs to be discussion around things. There needs to be a sense of connection and camaraderie and a team effort when you're working with somebody, instead of this passive aggressive withdrawal and this justified self-righteous resentment that you want to draw from it because they should know better. They should have thanked me. I gave to them. Why didn't they show their gratitude and express their gratitude to me? When we act this way, we're being selfish and we're trying to achieve a certain goal. That goal can be many, many things. It could be for material gain. It could be for to cover up fears. It could be to cover up insecurities. It could be to anything, really. But we're trying to get something out of somebody usually, whether we know it or not. A lot of people think this is just how relationships go because they've had bad relationships modeled for them their entire life, to be honest with you, which I understand. But you don't need to keep doing that, because what's going to happen is you're going to have the same relationship over and over and over again because you keep acting the same way. That's what happened to me. I needed to change me so I behaved differently in the relationships, and suddenly all of my relationships changed. How weird. I always thought it was always the people that I was interacting with and they were doing this to me, but turns out no. First of all, I was picking them, and secondly, I was putting them in a position where that's how I was almost provoking them to act because of my behavior. Now, everyone's responsible for their own behavior and everything like that, but I know what I was doing was unhealthy. I didn't know it at the time. I know it now that I've become aware of it and I took responsibility for it. But anything done to influence or control a behavior is manipulative and codependent. Base rule in a relationship. People are going to be like, well, what about raising kids? Well, it's your responsibility to still educate and raise children, and with a objective and honest way, right? Passive aggressiveness with children doesn't work well, right? Because then they're just trying to make sure they're acting in a way that appeases you instead of acting in a way that's righteous and good. You are not God. I am not God. I'm trying to raise children so they can be strong, independent, healthy people with boundaries. Not someone that knows how to make me happy. Not someone that knows how to make you happy. Right? Well, what if that's one and the same, people will say? It never will actually be. If you just have someone around you to make you happy, you just have a little friend that is scared of you, really, at the end of the day. So having that honest conversation, having healthy expectations, communicated behavioral expectations, things like that. Not some secretive, like, I need you to do this so I feel better about myself type of stuff. There's a way to have healthy relationships and all of those dynamics I've referenced. And none of it involves withdrawing as punishment. Because that's just manipulative. And this withdraw, like that is a key factor in a lot of abusive relationships, whether it's emotionally abusive, mentally abusive, physically abusive, right? Like this is a staple in how people try to force others to change to suit their will, right? And it's a good indicator that a relationship needs to end if you are constantly trying to achieve a sense of safety and security with somebody by appeasing them, right? If you know if you don't do certain things, your safety and your security will be threatened, right? Whether it be through violence, what arguments, through any other means of threat. If you know that those things will happen if you don't act a certain way, and then you will have that love and that stability withdrawn from you, that safety withdrawn from you, right? If you have to act in an appeasing way to get that, and you're worried about that consistently, it's a pretty good indicator that it's about time for that relationship to end, or at least a very hard look to be taken at it to see what's actually going on, because that dynamic needs to change. Nobody can live that way and expect to be happy and content and peaceful and be in a loving household, because that's not actually love. That's conditional ceasefire. I can't think of a better word for it, right? But that's just the battle is not happening at that moment, but it's still waiting to happen, right? Waiting for something to set it off. So if you are just trying to appease somebody to keep peace and safety and security in your relationship, and I don't care what the dynamic is, whichever way that's going, there's an issue. And not only do you need to take a look at the relationship as a whole, you need to take a look at how you have played a part in allowing that level relationship to progress to that. Now, a lot of people are not going to like that comment, but there's two people in every single relationship. Some people have not even realized what was happening as it's progressed to a point where they've just feel like they've been decimated, where they feel like they've lost their sense of identity completely, where they feel like they're terrified of every waking moment. They're walking on eggshells around a person all the time, right? It's easy to play victim in that, but you have to take a really hard look. This is something I had to personally do, and take a really hard look at how I allowed that to progress to a point like that. Because I've been on both sides of this. Not really proud to admit that, but I didn't know how to do this. And I've tried many times to get it right, and I didn't. And now I do. Now I understand why I was doing it so poorly for so long. So just keep that in mind. If you are trying to get your sense of safety and security from appeasing somebody else, you got to take a look at it. So next thing I wanted that they say in this chapter is that they reference Jesus Christ as and the selflessness that he embodied, and how that was really thankless. Like he didn't know that books were going to be written about him. He didn't know that he was going. Well, maybe he did. Obviously, if you take the Christian perspective, he was God, right? He was God in flesh. He was sent down to be a manifestation of God in skin, right? But in that moment, nobody was thanking him for that, right? He wasn't going around demanding people acknowledge his grandeur and bow at his feet and thank him for coming and showing them the way and blah 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 blah. Right? He was there. The ego was not there for that, right? And then they go into an appropriate way through the example of Jesus Christ to handle thanks, which I really am grateful that they did, because this goes right along with what I was talking about last week, right? Because it's important to acknowledge the thanks. Don't be dismissive of it. Like, allow people to express their appreciation and accept it for what it is, and then give appropriate guidance as to not guidance, appropriate credit where credit is due, right? They said when he was thanked by those upon whom he worked miracles, he sent them on their ways, feeling that he was happy that his belief in and trust in his Father could, through him, make them whole. So he didn't tell him, don't thank me. He didn't say, no, it's no big deal. He didn't say, oh, but I could have done better. He allowed them to express their gratitude, and then he in turn expressed gratitude for God, for his Father, right? For being blessed with the opportunity to provide those miracles, those services to that person, right? Because it wasn't him that did it. It was the Father working through him, is what he was saying. It was a miracle of God. It was a blessing that he was able to actually provide this to this person, and that God could work through him. So it acknowledges his place in this, saying he had to take the actions, he had to show up, the person had to be willing to receive it as well. But really, he was just a vessel for the power of his God, the power of God working through him. He was just merely transporting that energy to him, right? That allowed that miracle to actually happen. So he was accepting thanks and appropriately giving credit as an act of humility. Because he could have simply said, yes, worship me. Yes, this, yes, that, do this, do that, and just completely absorbed it all for himself, right? But he let the person, instead, he let the person express their gratitude. He received it and then gave it appropriate credit to where credit was due. This is not a rejection of appreciation, right? This is the appropriate allocation of appreciation, right? Two very different things. Two very different things. Because we are involved in this whole thing in some way, and the willingness we have to actually practice these things. We don't know how we're going to affect people. We don't know what practicing honesty is going to have, or who practicing honesty is going to have an impact on. Who's going to get what from it, when it's going to happen, right? We don't know how those powers greater than ourselves, the God of our understanding, will work through our behavior. But that's the beautiful thing about it, right? So they gave this example that Jesus could perform the miracles, right? But it was God working through him. That power greater than himself blessed him with the ability to actually do it. So was he involved? Yes. But where did the power come from? Where was it him alone? Absolutely not. A lot of people have a hard time doing that. I know I have in the past, right? I've rather rejected appreciation and thanks because I didn't feel like I genuinely deserved it. Or it was for some other selfish reason, prideful reason. But I could never just accept it and say thank you, right? And say thank God that I was able to do this and show appropriate appreciation. I couldn't do that beforehand. I was filled with ego all the time. It never worked. Never worked out well, right? It was always uncomfortable. And it made everyone else uncomfortable when it happened too. So, the best example I can give of this is, and a personal example maybe is a better way to say it, is in my own recovery. I have been in recovery, sober for multiple years. I'm just 8 years at this point in time, in January 2026. And some people say I should be proud of that. Because to many, it's quite a feat. And I'm not I'm not minimizing it or belittling it. But just like they exhort the example they gave of Jesus Christ, like though I showed up to my recovery, I was willing to practice and do certain things and take certain actions. But it took a lot of people, a lot of time, and a lot of different programs, clinical and community programs, for me to actually be where I am today. So it would be arrogant of me and egotistical of me to say, look what I did. Because it's not true. The only reason I am here today is because other people have gone before me that have given me this information. So by my own power, I would not be sitting here doing this. I'd probably be dead by now, to be honest with you, with the way my life was going. It's other people putting themselves in a genuine place of service to me so I could actually engage with that and get well, that I am here today. That people created 12-step programs is why I'm here today. That people showed up to them and practiced them and practiced the principles of righteousness and virtuous living and moral living and showed me how to do that. I wasn't here because I came up with a bunch of good ideas and suddenly I'm better. No. There's a lot of credit that has to go out in this world. There's a lot of people that have put a lot of time, effort, and service into placing me here. Did I have to accept it? Yes. Did I have to be willing to do the work? Yes. But that's it. Oh, and I had to be honest. Those who know is honest, open-minded, and willing. Those are the things I had to have. But the rest was waiting for me to just pick up these tools and do them. And there was already a path made for me. I just had to walk it. So how arrogant of me would it be to say, look at everything I did? And that's what they're saying here. If people thank you or people give you praise or adoration or whatever it might be, right, to accept it, but give appropriate acknowledgement to God, give appropriate acknowledgement to those who have helped you, right? Because we are the accumulation of everything that's brought us to this point. My family, my friends, those who have stood by me and those who I've lost. There's a lot that's gone into this. And it would be so selfish of me to not acknowledge that. But that's where the ego reemerges. That's where the ego comes back in full force, right? And that's where people fall a lot of times, actually. That's where people fall down a lot. So gratitude to your God, to God, to your higher power, to the God of your understanding that put the people in your life, to put the people in my life to guide and help me is crucial. That's why they say a grateful heart will never drink a drug. A grateful heart will maintain recovery. Because it's taking you out of center. It's placing you in a position to be right-sized again. And then the last line, well, the last couple lines actually, that I wanted to reference here. It kind of goes along with this part right in the middle here. Goes right along with what we were talking about here. Christ gave thanks to his Father, showing us that it is to God, the fountain of all good, our thanks should be given. Should we not have others thank God for us, then thank us alone? By that, they are paying us the greatest tribute possible to be paid to man. That says it all right there, right? Someone expresses that to us. We express it to God. We tell them they should thank God as well, right? It says for us then to thank us alone. To thank us alone, we would just be accepting all of it. Would be taking it all into ourselves and building that ego, that pride, unhealthy sense of pride, right? Giving that appropriate credit keeps us right size, keeps our egos in check. It keeps us in a position to be of service still, and not trying to continuously reaffirm ourselves with that adoration. Because I've seen a lot of people get to a point where they are receiving praise, or they're receiving recognition and a lot of positive things, and then suddenly they start relying upon that more and more and more and more, and suddenly they're doing it for the praise, and they're not doing it because it's the right thing to do. The action looks the same, but the message is getting lost, because they're coming from a place of selfishness and self-centeredness, because they've become reliant upon the recognition, reliant upon the adoration, reliant upon the egotistical part of the whole thing. Now, this reading reminded me of a line that I was thinking of early on in my recovery, where pride, because people are saying you should have a good, healthy sense of pride, and I don't think I agree with that. Or excuse me, let me just be clear about that. I don't agree that any sort of pride in self is healthy. It is unnecessary. And it is unhealthy to anybody. And I realized it was a weird way it came to me, and I would be interested to hear anyone's opinion on it. But it was pride tempered with honesty and gratitude is okay. Then I realized that pride tempered with honesty and gratitude, honesty being giving appropriate credit, and gratitude giving the appropriate recognition to God and those who supported you and everything it took for you to get here, right? So pride tempered with honesty and gratitude is humility. Because that is that honest appraisal we've talked about a lot here, right? Because you're saying, wow, I was able to do this, but I was only able to do this because of God and those who have helped me get here. What a miracle it is that I've been blessed with the opportunity to do whatever this thing was. And then that's why I realized that, because a healthy sense of pride is not a real thing. A healthy pride is actually humility. And a big problem many of us have is this sense of self-importance, that I need to be the most important person in the room, or I have to matter to somebody, and I have to be this and I have to be that. And that just leads to the sense of ego and entitlement. We all want to be somebody to somebody. And because that makes us feel like we matter. But if we remember we're somebody to the God of our understanding already, we don't need to demand the world give it to us. We don't need to feed our egos in that way. We don't need to have that sense of entitlement that comes after it too. Look at me, I'm somebody. Give me what I want. It's a dangerous place to be. So giving the appropriate credit keeps us based in reality, keeps us right-sized, and it allows us to stay in a place where we can continue to function and be of service from absolute love to the God of our understanding, and to serve those around us, those we love, and to function from a place of absolute love, really, to carry that in our hearts, right? Because as soon as our ego comes in, absolute love is gone. We're serving ourselves only. So that humility and that gratitude and appropriate credit given, that honesty, allows us to continue to have a healthy way of living. So just remember, we're not in charge of this whole thing. We have some responsibilities, though. We're not in charge. So there we go. That is the end of part 3. And again, it's another 50-minute one. Sorry about the length. But there's just so much in these that I really that just connects to so many pieces of my story. This chapter just really encompasses so much of my experience. And I hope it's been a benefit and a help to y'all as well. And I'm looking forward to next week. I think I read a little bit ahead, so I think we'll get a little bit further into it than just one paragraph next time. Don't quote me on that, though. We'll see how it goes. So thank you all for joining me. And until next time, thanks.